What if the organization you were taught to dismiss as a conspiracy theory never actually disappeared? What if it simply changed its name? Every year, millions of people search for the word Illuminati online. Governments have denied it. Scholars have mocked it. Mainstream media has buried it beneath layers of ridicule. But here's what nobody tells you. The men who founded it weren't lunatics or fanatics. They were among the most brilliant, dangerous, and calculating minds of the 18th century. And the system they designed, the network of influence, secrecy, and control, laid a blueprint so precise, that some of the most powerful institutions in the world still operate by it today. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented history. May 1, 1776. Bavaria, Germany. A 30-year-old law professor named Adam Weishaupt sits alone in a candlelit room. Outside, the Catholic Church controls information. Kings rule by divine right. The average person is born, obeys, and dies, never questioning who is truly pulling the strings. Weishaupt is furious. Not a revolutionary in the street riot sense. Something far more dangerous, a revolutionary of systems. He believed that if the right men controlled the flow of knowledge, of money, of influence, they could reshape civilization itself. Not through war. Through infiltration. That night, he founded a secret society he called the Order of the Illuminati, meaning the Enlightened Ones. It began with just 5 members. But Weishaupt didn't want soldiers. He wanted lawyers. Judges. Bankers. Politicians. Doctors. Men who already had one foot inside the systems of power. His recruitment strategy was methodical. Terrifyingly so. Members were assigned code names drawn from ancient history. Weishaupt himself was called Spartacus. New recruits never knew who else was in the order. They communicated through ciphers. They used invisible ink. They developed hand signs to identify one another in public, signals so subtle that even a trained eye would miss them. Within 5 years, the Illuminati had spread across Europe, embedded inside Freemasonry lodges, universities, and royal courts. At its peak, historians estimate the membership reached over 2,000 of the most influential men on the continent. Then, in 1785, it was suddenly banned. The Bavarian government raided Weishaupt's associates, seized documents, and declared the order dissolved. But here's where history gets uncomfortable. When authorities raided the home of Illuminati courier Xavier von Zwack in 1786, they found something that stopped them cold. Not weapons. Documents. Detailed plans for infiltrating foreign governments. Instructions for manipulating public opinion. Correspondence with high-ranking figures across Europe, including, some historians argue, individuals connected to the courts of France and Prussia. The seized papers were published to warn the public. A Bavarian government report stated, and this is real, that the Illuminati's goal was to abolish all religion, overturn all governments, and bring about a universal republic. Now, the official story says the order died there. Dissolved. Gone. But researchers who dig deeper find a trail that simply doesn't end. 3 years after the Illuminati was supposedly disbanded, the French Revolution erupted. The Reign of Terror. The systematic dismantling of the monarchy and the church, 2 institutions the Illuminati had explicitly targeted. Coincidence? Many historians say yes. But the Abbé Béraud, a Jesuit priest who studied the revolution obsessively, published a 4-volume work in 1797 arguing that the entire revolution had been secretly orchestrated, by the Illuminati, working through Masonic lodges. His books became bestsellers across Europe and America. Even George Washington wrote a letter in 1798 acknowledging what he called the diabolical tenets of the Illuminati, admitting he believed the doctrine had indeed spread to America. That letter is real. You can find it in the Library of Congress today. But here is the twist that almost nobody in the conspiracy community talks about. And it changes everything. Adam Weishaupt, the so-called architect of a shadowy world order, spent the last 40 years of his life, writing philosophy books. Publicly. Under his own name. Supported by a duke. Giving lectures. Living openly. He was never imprisoned. Never truly hunted. Never silenced. For a man who supposedly threatened the entire power structure of Western civilization, he lived a remarkably comfortable, undisturbed life. Which raises a question that historians rarely ask aloud. What if the banning of the Illuminati was the plan all along? What if the most effective way to continue operating in secret was to publicly appear destroyed? Create the spectacle of collapse. Let the conspiracy theorists chase the ghost. And rebuild, quietly, under a different architecture entirely. In the centuries that followed, something interesting happened. A series of exclusive, invitation-only organizations emerged across the Western world, each one built on the same core principles Weishaupt outlined: secrecy, selective membership, global influence, and a belief that the world should be guided by an enlightened few. The Council on Foreign Relations, founded in 1921. The Bilderberg Group, founded in 1954, whose meetings are closed to press, protected by military security, and attended by heads of state, central bankers, and media executives. The Trilateral Commission, whose founding members included figures from the most powerful financial dynasties on Earth. None of these organizations claim any connection to the Illuminati. None of them have to. Because what Weishaupt understood, and what most people still don't, is that power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wear a black robe or carry a torch in a forest ceremony. Real power sits in a quiet room. It shapes the curriculum your children study. It decides which stories the media covers and which ones quietly disappear. It determines which politicians rise and which ones, despite talent, despite support, somehow never quite make it. The Illuminati's greatest trick was not infiltrating governments. It was teaching the world to laugh at anyone who noticed. So what is the dark truth about the Illuminati that nobody talks about? It's not that they control everything. That's too simple. Too convenient. The real truth is this. The structure Weishaupt built, small, secretive, self-selecting networks of powerful men who share a unified vision and operate outside public accountability, didn't die in 1785. It became a template. Copied, refined, and redeployed by every generation of powerful people who understood what Weishaupt knew. The most effective cage is one the prisoner believes doesn't exist. But here's what we haven't told you yet. There is one symbol, hiding in plain sight on a building that millions of tourists photograph every single year, that researchers have connected directly to Weishaupt's original cipher system. And when you see it, you will never look at that building the same way again. That story is next.